What's good, everybody? It's your boy K-Love. Welcome back to another episode of the 410 Pod. I hope you guys all had an amazing Christmas. We got a loaded episode for you today, and here's what we're covering. We're going to recap the Steelers versus Chiefs game on Christmas Day and the Ravens versus Texans game on Christmas Day. Then we're going to take a quick preview of the Oklahoma matchup versus Navy tomorrow in the Armed Forces Bowl, I believe it's called, and the future. And then we're going to talk about that 12-team playoff format and, give you guys a little bit of insight on what I think about it and, what kind of tweaks I think they should probably make for next year. And then some more exciting news around the league. Whether you're an NFL fan, college football, or just love hearing the latest stories, this episode is for you. So let's dive right into things. The Steelers versus Chiefs Christmas Day game. The Steelers and Chiefs brought the heat on Christmas Day. Let's recap the highlights. The Chiefs dominate the Steelers in particular Chiefs fashion. The Chiefs moved to 15-1, locking in the number one seed in the NFL, locking in the number one seed in the AFC. They dominated the Steelers 29-10. Patrick Mahomes continues to razzle and dazzle. He had a Mahomes-esque game. We haven't really seen this out of Mahomes all season long, and Mahomes finished with 239 yards, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 239 yards. Excuse me. Here it is. Nope, sorry. He finished with 29 of 38 completion to attempts, 320 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. This was the most efficient Mahomes game we've seen all season. And, it's good to see as a Ravens fan, obviously. But it is also bad to see because he's starting to heat up at the wrong time from a Ravens fan perspective. We're probably going to have to match up with him eventually, obviously, in the playoffs. And we want to play Mahomes when he's at his absolute worst. Obviously, you want to, as a fan, you want to see everybody healthy. You want to see all the stars play. But from a Ravens fan perspective, we don't want Mahomes doing this going into the playoffs. That means that he is clicking on all cylinders right now, right? That Steelers defense is legit. And last week versus the Ravens, they gave up 34 points, and this week they gave up 29. This is a good thing to see as a Ravens fan as well, right? This means that the Steelers defense and their offense is really stagnant right now. And going into next week, we need the Steelers to lose again next week. We need them to lose again. We need to win again so we can obtain the AFC North and potentially get this number 2 seed in the AFC with the Bills loss this week as well. But back to this Chiefs and Steelers game. Like I said, Mahomes went out there and dominated. He only incompleted 9 passes, threw 9 incomplete passes, and 320 yards and no interceptions. The run game was kind of quiet, but it was efficient enough, But no one averaged over 4 yards a carry, I should say. But Kareem Hunt added on a touchdown there. In the receiving game, though, Mahomes spread the ball out, throwing for 29 completions, obviously. Kelsey, 8 catches, 84 yards, 10 and a half per catch, and a touchdown. Rookie Xavier Worthy out of Texas brought in 8 catches for 79 yards, 9.9 yards per catch, and a touchdown. Justin Watson also had 2 explosive plays for 2 catches and 60 yards, averaging 30 yards a catch and a touchdown. Hollywood Brown finally returns and put up 4 receptions, 46 yards, no touchdowns. Juju had 2 catches, 18 yards, and no touchdowns. D-Hop, 2 catches for 7 yards and no touchdowns. You know what the Chiefs' formula is. Get Travis Kelce the ball, right? Obviously, they fed him 8 times, and they're getting their rookie receiver involved a whole lot. 8 catches, right? I assume they both had more than 8 targets, too. And defensively, the Chiefs held the Steelers to 10 points, putting a lot of pressure on Russell Wilson. They had 5 sacks in yesterday's outing. Justin Reed came up with an interception as well. The Chiefs defense also, they locked in as well. They locked in. Also forcing a fumble as well and coming up with one. So this Chiefs team is looking very, very Chiefy right now. Very, very 2020s-esque right now. But obviously they still need to improve that run game. I think come time in the playoffs, when you come to play against a team like a Baltimore, or even a Buffalo, James Cook's no slouch. It's going to really come down to who runs the ball better. Right, I really hope the Chiefs fall short at some point in the playoffs, but either way, I want to see them again. TJ Watt and the Steelers defense made some big stops, but it really wasn't enough. It wasn't enough because the offense couldn't really produce the way that the Steelers really wanted to. In yesterday's game, Russell Wilson put up a whopping 23 of 37 for completions to attempts, 205 yards and a pick. But he also had a rushing touchdown. He had 6 carries for 55 yards and a rushing touchdown. Najee Harris really not a bad game, but 13 carries for 5.7 yards. Obviously, they would have liked to get him the ball more, but the Chiefs were shooting. Right? And Jaylen Warren had 11 carries for 71 yards, solid outing, but still not enough. George Pickens returned this game, had 3 catches for 50 yards, no touchdowns. Pat Freiermuth, really solid tight end one there. 7 catches for 60 yards, no touchdowns. And other than that, Jaylen Warren brought in 5 catches for 41. Calvin Austin brought in 4 for 31. Not really a big day for the Steelers. Their offense was pretty slow. And you can't really have a slow offense versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Not at all. Not when Pat Mahomes is suited up at quarterback. The Chiefs move on to 15-1. They lock in the number 1 seed in the AFC. Lock in the number 1 seed in the AFC West. And they have a bye week in the first week of the playoffs. This really wasn't that much of an electric game for Christmas Day, I should say. Granted, both of these teams just played on Saturday. They both just played on Saturday, but the Chiefs looked like they still had some juice from Saturday's game after defeating the Texans in Chiefs fashion as well. And they came out and dominated the Steelers on Christmas Day. The Grinch came out and took all the gifts from the Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and Santa Claus came and made sure the Grinch didn't take anything from the Chiefs. But the AFC playoff picture's shaping up, and this game played a huge role in determining the standings. Now, let's move on to the Ravens Christmas Day game against the Texans. Let's go, Ravens. Hey, we here, baby. We here. This was another statement game from the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens fans, NFL fans. This was a very big statement from the Ravens. Very big statement. We defeated the Baltimore Ravens defeated the Houston Texans 31-2 in very astonishing fashion on Christmas Day. On top of that, we had a performance from Beyoncé at halftime. This kind of gave me the vibe of the Super Bowl back in 2013. You know, minus the power going out. But in that game back in the Super Bowl, we were dominating those guys, but we allowed them to come back. But Lamar Jackson delivered another standout performance. Proving why he's the MVP and proving why he should be winning his third one this year. You know what I'm saying? Lamar Jackson last night, 10-15, 168 through the air, 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. Was sacked 1 time. Had a 99.8 QBR and a 143.9 QB rating. Near perfect game for Lamar Jackson. Near perfect. And on the ground, he had 4 carries, 87 yards, also delivering a 48 touchdown run. And that thing, he said he was jogging, y'all. Lamar Jackson said he was jogging. Now, I wish I could rewind the clip, but that dude wasn't jogging. They said they clocked him at almost 22 miles an hour. That dude wasn't jogging, but he delivers another impressive and electrifying performance against a really tough Texans defense. They have a lot of pieces over there, but the Texans defense did not show up last night on Christmas Day. They left their fans empty with, leaving the stadium with no feeling, feeling numb on Christmas night, man. Derrick Henry's dominance on the ground. He produced 162 rushing yards and shows why the Ravens made that blockbuster offseason signing. Derrick Henry has been a pivotal piece to the puzzle. 27 carries. I'm sorry, not 162 yards, 147 yards and 1 touchdown. And the longest run of the day for 20 yards, averaging 5.4 yards a carry. That dude's he should win AFC Offensive Player of the Year. They'll probably give it to Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, depending on who they give the MVP to. But if Lamar wins MVP, then I believe that Derrick Henry should win the Offensive Player of the Year. That dude's been such a difference maker for us. And, like I say in all of my episodes, when we give him the ball at least 20 times, good shit happens. We gave him the ball 27 times last night, and we produced 31 points. Come on. Make it make sense. I'm not just talking out the side of my neck, y'all. I'm not. And guess how many times Lamar threw? 15. And still produced 168 yards and 2 passing touchdowns. With only 15 passes to throw. Now looking at the receiving, our guys stepped up. Obviously, it was a very run-heavy game. But Mark Andrews, 2 catches for 68 yards. And a touchdown. Zay Flowers, 2 catches, 31 yards. Keaton Mitchell, welcome back. 1 catch, 28 yards. Derrick Henry even had 2 catches, 18 yards. Anthony Miller, welcome to the team. 1 catch for 16 yards on a deep in route. Bateman, 1 catch for 12 yards. Isaiah Likely had a touchdown. Guys, we're cooking. We're cooking. I wish Zay Flowers could have brought in. I wish we could have brought in some more of those catches with Zay Flowers in that game, though. Lamar Jackson kind of was loafing, not loafing them, but floating them a little too much and putting a little too much oomph behind a few of those passes. But, on the offensive side of things, we've scored 31 points against a really good defense and right before the playoffs. This is good. This is good, y'all. This is back-to-back 30-point weeks. Back-to-back against 2 top defenses in the NFL and in the AFC that are potentially going to be in the playoffs. That's good stuff right there, Baltimore offense. Now moving on to the defense. The defense shut these boys out. Wait, before I move on to the defense, Derrick Henry. Just get downhill, bro. Just get downhill, and we don't give up a safety there. Just get downhill. You are not a lateral back. You are, but you're not. In that situation, you are a get your ass downhill, put your head down, your shoulders down, and get a yard or two. Give us some room. Not get downhill, make a cut to the left, and get tackled for a safety. Moving on back to the defense. Defense, you guys shut them out. I knew that we had the potential to do this, but I didn't think we would do this against this offense. Even though they had Stephon Diggs and no Tank Dell, right? This was an outstanding performance by the defense. You know, we forced 5 sacks yesterday. Kyle Hamilton had an insane interception. Insane, I should say. Insane. What more can you ask? What more can you ask out of a defense going against an impressive Texans offense, even without Tank Dell, even without Stephon Diggs? You know, they got John Mechie over there. Robert Woods is no slouch, right? Still got Nico Collins. You got Dalton Schultz, right? Still got Joe Mixon. They ain't got no slouches over there. This Texans team is still good. Even without Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell, they're still good. They had depth, right? And that was my biggest thing about the Texans. The favorite thing about the Texans this year is that they had depth at receiver. Crazy depth. So if their top 3 went down, their next 3 could come up and produce still. John Mechie ain't no slouch, man. But we locked them boys down. No points scored from the Texans offense. 5 sacks. Who all had sacks? Roquan Smith had a sack on a nice blitz and play. Kyle Van Noy, Mr. Unk. That's Unk them. Who else? Chris Board on a blitz and play off the edge. That was pretty smooth there by Zach Orr. He's been cooking, by the way. Nnamdi Madubuike. My boy's racking them sacks back up at the end of the season. Odafe Owe. Clap it up for Odafe. 5 sacks. 6 tackle for losses. 3 pass deflections. 9 QB hits. That's what I'm talking about, defense. That's what I'm talking about. And the Kyle Hamilton interception, man. Also, Justin Tucker made a kick over 50 yards. He's getting back in his bag at the right time, y'all. He's getting back in that biggie bag. But the defense, nonetheless, you guys went out there, strapped shit up, and you know, you really I was worried because we struggle against number 1 receivers, y'all. We really struggle against number 1 receivers, and I hate it because but we have a young corner, Nate Wiggins, but we also have Tre'Davious White, who should be getting more reps, because watching the film, Trey White looking like he in Buffalo. I'm telling y'all, if y'all go and watch whenever Trey White's in the game, just watch Trey White on that play. He looks good. Trey White is playing his dick off. Nate Wiggins is playing his dick off. Brandon Stevens is getting back. Man, he could be the best corner in the NFL if he had any sort of ball skills. And that's why I don't want him on the field right now. If he I don't know where you put him right now. You just sit him until in practice he's getting better with turning his damn head whenever there's a 50-50 ball coming his way. Because whenever there's a 50-50 ball thrown at Brandon Stevens, I am worried. I'm not worried until I see that it's thrown at Brandon Stevens, actually. That's how it is. I'm not worried. I'm like, okay, all of our corners can play 50-50 balls until I see number 21 out there playing it. And I'm like, guys, come on. Can we please get Trey White in the game? Trey White, please beg yourself to get in the game or something. Zach Orr, get my boy in the game. Now, Zach Orr. Moving on to Zach Orr. I'm still standing by you, dog. You know, a lot of the Ravens fans wanted to write Zach Orr off this season early on, you know, especially after the Cincinnati Bengals games and then the Dallas Cowboy game that we almost blew, right? And the Raiders game early on in the season where we gave up almost 30 points. You know, Zach Orr has responded. He's still making some iffy play calls, you know, some play calls that I wish just weren't made in certain situations, but he's cooking right now. Sending so many exotic pressures, not even really that exotic, but he's cooking stuff up right now against bad O-lines. And a lot of teams in the AFC right now have bad O-lines. Kansas City's O-line is terrible this year for some reason. Houston Texans, obviously, we just got 9 QB hits and 5 sacks on them. All right. Pittsburgh Steelers O-line is iffy. Buffalo's O-line is solid. I like Buffalo's O-line. But other than that, man, like, these O-lines ain't that good. Chargers O-line is pretty good. But we still put pressure on Justin Herbert in that game. But Zach Orr has been cooking. So everyone that had wrote him off in the beginning of the season, right now, you better be writing your apology letters. Because Zach Orr is in his biggie bag. And he's helping us put ourselves in the right position in the AFC picture. And, you know, moving on to back to the win, you know, what does it mean for the Ravens playoff position in the AFC? Let's break it down. We move on to 11-5. Steelers move to 10-6. So we currently have a half a game spot over the Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC North. And we finished the season off versus the Cleveland Browns at home, and the Pittsburgh Steelers finished their season off with the Cincinnati Bengals, I believe, in Cincinnati. So what we need Pittsburgh to lose again, and we need to win. But also, we want Cincinnati to lose, honestly, but it's shaping up to be a situation where Cincinnati plays their starters. Pittsburgh has to play their starters. And it has to be a good game. So we just need Pittsburgh to lose, really. In all honesty, we need Pittsburgh to lose. And then we need the Chargers to win. We need there's one more team to win. There was one more team. I think it was like Jacksonville Indianapolis. We needed them to win. Right? Just to keep the Bengals out. We need them to win and keep the Bengals out so we can win the AFC North. Now, we need the Bills to lose this week and next week so we can take over the number 2 spot in the AFC. That's where we're cooking. So we can potentially get 2 home games in the playoffs. That's what's the perfect, like the best case scenario. Now, worst case scenario is that, right, we lose next week. We still would make the playoffs, but potentially have to be the number 4 seed and play the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Buffalo Bills or somebody away. We got to play away. So we need to win, and we need the Steelers to lose so we can get a guaranteed playoff game. And also we need the Bills to lose so we can potentially get 2 playoff games at home. That's what that means for our playoff position in the AFC. Now, let's not forget the holiday magic with Beyonce's incredible halftime performance, y'all. Right? What a treat for the fans watching at home, and in the stadium. You know, she put on a hell of a performance last night, singing all of her songs from her album. You know, brought out Shabuzi, brought out Post Malone. You know, the stars were out. Stars were out in Houston. You know, and I thought it was a pretty dope thing. You know, my biggest concern with that whole shindig performance was, you know, remember the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight and how Netflix was hosting it and everything went to crap, basically. that was my biggest thing, really. But all in all, Netflix pulled through. Wrote right their wrongs. They wrote their wrongs, and they provided us with a pretty dope performance from Beyonce, and Beyonce did a hell of a job last night, and makes me now want to go listen to her country album, because some of those songs had me in here dancing. You know what I mean, on Christmas night. So it was pretty special. It was a pretty special performance, pretty special night. I had a great Christmas. Seeing the Baltimore Ravens win against the Houston Texans and bumping our place up in the AFC. And the Ravens are looking really strong headed into the final stretch of the season. And this win definitely keeps their momentum rolling going into Week 18 versus the Browns and going into the playoffs. So let's keep this thing rolling. Now, let's shift gears and talk about a game happening tomorrow. Oklahoma versus Navy. College football fans, this segment's for you. Tomorrow, the Oklahoma Sooners take on Navy in what promises to be an intriguing matchup. Oklahoma's offense has been on fire not on fire this season, but on fire late in the season. Primarily led by Jackson Arnold, now going to be Michael Hawkins. Can they keep it going against Navy's defense, though? Navy held Army to, I believe it was 12 points in their final game, in their, Army-Navy Classic, Navy-Army Classic, I'm going to call it, since they won. Forced 3 or 4 turnovers in that game against the Army offense that was rolling this season. I think Oklahoma, we're going to have to stay in our option game, y'all. We're going to have to get back into our option game, and because Michael Hawkins has wheels. So it's going to really be a game of who's going to run the option better. And I'm afraid that it ain't us, because this is the Navy midshipmen's type of game. But we're going to have to put some pressure on Michael Hawkins tomorrow. We're going to have to get him throwing the ball. We're going to have to, because trying to outrun Navy, come on now. That ain't happening. That just ain't happening. So Oklahoma, I hope we have a plan tomorrow, because Navy has finished with a 9-3 record this year, and they have a couple star players, but the star player that I really want to talk about is quarterback Blake Horvath, who has rushed for 1,091 yards and 15 touchdowns, right? And threw for 1,200 yards and 13 touchdowns with just 4 interceptions. Though the midshipmen only averaged roughly 126 passing yards this year which is second to last amongst FBF teams. And Horvath threw for 225 yards and 2 touchdowns against UAB, which was his biggest game of the year. And much of Horvath's production has really come from on the ground. He produced 5 games of 100 yards or more, including 196 in a win over Army last week. He is a dog. Blake Horvath is a dog. And for those of you who don't know, you're going to find out tomorrow. I tell you that. You're going to find out tomorrow. Because I hope Oklahoma's defense shows up, man. Because our defense is playing lights out. Navy runs a unique triple option offense that always presents a challenge. And how will you respond, BV? I haven't seen us go against trip hop all year. I don't think we didn't play Vandy this year, so we didn't really run into it. The midshipmen have been effective at moving the ball on the ground. They average nearly 250 yards a game, which is 7th best amongst FBS schools, while Blake Horvath, carried much of that load, and fullback Alex Texa and running back Eli Heidenreich have combined for more than 950 yards rushing with 10 touchdowns themselves. And Heidenreich has 649 yards and 6 touchdowns with six touchdowns receiving. I'm sorry. And then Oklahoma is going to be missing, we're looking to be missing Danny Stutzman, Billy Bowman, Deshaun McCullough, who was a big producer for us, and slowing down the triple option with our three seniors. I think Deshaun's a senior, super senior. It's going to be a tough tour for Oklahoma. This is going to be a big test for us. It's going to be a big mentality test for us, I should say. This game is really going to be won in the trenches, like any other game. But this game is really going to be won in the trenches. Now, Oklahoma, Navy's in its first bowl game since 2019. And it's in its first bowl game and against the SEC opponent since 1955. 1955. And, we're going to be missing a lot of key players, right? But we still have to figure to hold the talent edge. And the midship, Navy has only they've only played against one team, a one power conference game plus Notre Dame opponent. And we're really destroyed by Notre Dame 51-4 on October 26th. And Navy's last victory over a Power 5 team came in the 2019 Liberty Bowl over K-State. So we can't fall victim to that right there. They got mollywopped this year. Granted, we're not Notre Dame. Right? But we're still a blue blood school. We still have blue blood talent. We should be winning this game. Now, some key players to watch for Oklahoma, right? I think Michael Hawkins, obviously quarterback Michael Hawkins, who has to now step back into the starting role and has to play against a Navy defense who is right? It's not the greatest, but it's not the worst defense I've seen. I've seen a lot worse defenses. Deion Burks, who is going to be wide receiver 1 next year, potentially maybe wide receiver 2, depending on the size, you know what I mean? And our running backs, all of them, Taylor Tatum, Gavin Sawchuk, and our offensive line, the running game, that running game core, that inside box for the offensive, the offense. So it's going to be a test. It's going to be a big test. Big test. Can we run the ball against Navy? We have to establish the run game against Navy. And don't make ourselves one-dimensional in passing the ball with Michael Hawkins, who hasn't really taken real reps since Auburn. Maybe Auburn. Yeah, South Carolina, I should say. Yeah, he hasn't taken real reps since then. So we have to get him going on the run, on the ground. You know what I mean? So who is it? Joe John Finley. Cook, baby. You got to cook tomorrow, man, because Navy ain't coming to fuck around. They're going to be deep. This is a military forces game, armed forces game. Like, the theme of the game is, it's set up for success for Navy. It's setting up Navy for great success in this game. It's going to be jam-packed. All the midshipmen going to be there. They all going to be there, but should be a home game for Oklahoma, as this game is taking place in Dallas, Texas, which is about 2.5 hours from Norman, maybe 3 with terrible traffic. Oklahoma fans got to travel well tomorrow. I hope they would do and make this sort of a home atmosphere for us. Navy's traveling all the way from good old Annapolis, Maryland, crib, So I expect us to take this game tomorrow, and I don't think we'll blow them out, but I think we win by 10. I think we win 27-17. That's a really good, that's a solid game right there. I still think we win by 10 in good fashion. I don't think Navy really has enough to keep up with us, as we have a lot of young talent that is still there, and Navy is. I feel like they're just not really built to beat Power 4/5 schools, big name conference, blue blood schools. The triple option can only go so far. right? Talent will come into play eventually, and hard work will have to stay in play. So I've got Oklahoma winning 27-17. Oklahoma fans, let me know what you think in the comments, right? This should be a good matchup. This should be a really good matchup. But I think we'll get the best of Navy here in this Armed Forces game. So, Oklahoma 27-17. And speaking of football and big games, let's talk about this, man. Everybody give it up for Mr. Teddy freaking Bridgewater, y'all. Teddy Bridgewater is coming out of retirement, right? First off, it didn't really catch me off guard as some reports came out stating that he had, mentioned to his players and his team at Miami Northwestern, who, first off, congratulations to Teddy Bridgewater on winning the Miami 6A state championship, or I can't remember what division they're in, but they won the state championship this year in Florida. In his first year coaching, went undefeated, defeated everybody. I think they only allowed 50-something points this season alone, through the playoffs too, not just talking regular season. But this kind of caught me off guard that he was going to come back out of retirement at this point in the season. But this definitely adds, a veteran presence to that Detroit Lions locker room. And, my question is really why now? What really inspired Teddy Bridgewater to return to the NFL at this point in the season? I get it. Dan Campbell, he played under Dan Campbell back in his stint with the New Orleans Saints in shoot, man. What year was that? Let me pull that up. Back in 2019. Sheesh, it's 5 years ago. That's the last time they were, together. And Teddy Bridgewater ain't no slouch, dog. He threw a lot of interceptions, but he also threw a lot of touchdowns, man. Teddy Bridgewater he won games. He won games in Minnesota. I'm pretty sure he went to the playoffs in Minnesota. He never put up, electrifying touchdown numbers. So I'm excited for him, which is, I don't know, man. You ain't played no football all season. What if he has to potentially get in the game? That's my thing. I get that, all the articles are saying he's still in shape, but the NFL, that's the highest level. I get it. He played in the NFL for almost 10 years. He's 32. He's not old, but he's getting to that point in his career where people start to raise that eyebrow and Teddy, you coming back? Something that we could really look at is Colin Kaepernick. I think Colin Kaepernick, he ain't terrible, dawg. He ain't terrible. But he just, I'm not going to get too much into that. It's a pretty political topic there, but he old. Never mind. Cap's old. Cap's 37, y'all. He need to stop talking about coming back. But back to Teddy, man. It's just weird to come back at this point in the season. But it will be good for the Detroit Lions. For Jared Goff, I mean, I don't really know how much better Jared Goff is than Teddy Bridgewater. I'm not even going to get into that right there. But I'm going to congratulate Teddy, right? He's back in the league, man. He's had some solid years in the NFL. His best season was in arguably 2020 with the Carolina Panthers. Started in 15 games. He threw for 3,700 yards, 15 touchdowns, and unfortunately 11 interceptions, right? But he was also under a lot of pressure. He was playing on the Carolina freaking Panthers in COVID. So you already know what that means. It was bad. It was bad. But, his years in Minnesota can't go unnoticed. His rookie season, his second season, sophomore season, basically, threw 3,200 yards, 14 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. And then his Denver season in 2021 where he threw 285 completions on 426 attempts, 3,052 yards, 18 passing touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. Also put up 100 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. He's not a slouch, and then his career stats aren't bad either. He's had some injuries in some seasons, which caused him to, have low numbers. Not to mention, I don't want to forget that 2019 season where he was balling in the beginning with New Orleans, and he got sidelined, injured. He was lighting it up at 1,300 yards that season, 9 touchdowns and 2 picks through 9 games. He was playing well. He was playing well. And I think, welcome back, dog. Like, you're going to be a backup. I don't think he's going to play because Jared Goff, the only way, knock on wood, right? Knock on wood. I don't see Jared Goff really going down because, Jared Goff isn't really a runner or anything like that. But Teddy Bridgewater could definitely come in and enlighten the locker room with leadership, with all his years playing in the league, helping Jared Goff, being just the extra, mouth, pause, but pause, it could just be extra set of advice, and this is always good for a team that's about to attempt to go on a deep run in the playoffs. Always having a veteran presence in that room that has really been, he's been in a playoff setting before, Teddy Bridgewater has. And it's a big sign. It's not really a big signing for the Lions, but it's a good one. It's a good one, Teddy Bridgewater's coming off of winning a championship in high school, but obviously it's high school, but some of the same, lessons you learn in high school football, college football, NFL, it all really translates, man. And Teddy Bridgewater just, mentored a bunch of high school athletes who probably thought that they weren't worth anything, you know what I mean? But Teddy Bridgewater went back and shed light on that Miami Northwestern team, dog. And I kind of want to get into that too. Miami Northwestern ran, Liberty City at one point. And, they kind of went quiet over the years. Talent was leaving. Talent was coming in. Talent leaving. Talent just couldn't be retained at Miami Northwestern. They had coaching changes. They produced a lot of good talent in the past. And Teddy Bridgewater, felt that it was basically his civic duty to come in and help change that program around. And he did in his first season. My boy went undefeated, 15-0, 16-0, and dominated Miami. That division of Miami. A lot of people, I hated seeing this on Instagram and Twitter and things like that. A lot of people saying that he didn't play anybody, and I'm like, he did. He played the competition that was in front of him and dominated everyone that came in front of him. Everybody's trying to tell him, say that they need to play better competition. And I'm like, well, they can only play who is in front of them, y'all. Right? They played the competition in 4A Florida, 5A Florida, whatever one it was for them. So the naysayers out there that decide to, try to make something out of nothing. That's pitiful, man. That's pitiful. I wish Teddy Bridgewater, nothing but success on his journey to, getting back in the league, dog. Like, that's crazy, man. You've been out of the game for almost 2 years now, dog. And then you just come back. But whatever. It's good for the mentality, for the team, the mentorship, the leadership aspect of the Lions going into the playoffs, trying to make a deep playoff run. Congratulations, Teddy, on coming back, on your return to the NFL. And, Bridgewater's story is one of resilience, through all the injuries, all the benching, and, just all the things he had to go through early on in his career. And it'll be exciting to see what's next for him in this new chapter for him on the Detroit Lions. Now, let's close out this podcast with a big picture look at the future of college football and this new 12-team playoff format that we have gotten to see the first round of, which was pretty disappointing. Pretty disappointing, to say the least. Man, some of the bowl games have been better than this. Some of the normal bowl games have just been better than this. It started off with the Notre Dame game, and dude, that game was horrible. We were expecting to see Kendrick Ward come in there and hopefully produce a good outing on against Notre Dame. And what we got was, man, it looked like Akron went out there and played Notre Dame. Like, what are we doing? And then you got SMU, Kevin Jennings went out there and threw 2 picks in the first quarter. In a pick 6, oh my goodness, bruh. Then Clemson nearly getting spanked against Texas. It was a to say the least interesting first week. And then Ohio State as well. I forgot. Ohio State put foot to behind against Tennessee. Foot to behind, y'all. And I think we have to start taking a look at, granted, right, I still stand on my statements about the teams that got in and the teams that didn't get in. Alabama didn't deserve to get in. Miami didn't deserve to get in. Ole Miss didn't deserve to get in, right? Didn't win enough games. Didn't win big games, Didn't really make it far in their season, all those implications, right? They didn't check off the boxes. But now, oh man, I'm starting to, I don't take back what I say, but I do want to revisit it because the outings the performances that we got over the weekend were terrible. I don't know if it was because it was just the home atmosphere, which was absolutely amazing across the board. Everybody, showed up. Everybody showed up at every game. That Ohio State game. No, hold on. Let's start off with the Notre Dame game. That Notre Dame game was electric, to say the least. The Penn State game, SMU shaking in their boots the moment they walked in that stadium, man. All of those games were electric, dog. And now that these next games are going to be at neutral sites, it's going to be interesting, right? It's going to be 50-50 or 75-25 or, just a bunch of randos at the games. But back to the playoff seeding, we need to talk about the automatic bids, the at-large bids, and I don't really have a problem with the seeding, or we should just leave it the same. The seeding, I guess we could talk about the seeding briefly. I think the seeding is fine. But the automatic bids, I think we should drop it. Drop it to 2. 2 automatic bids. And this is how I think it should go. Like, the 2 automatic bids should be the 2 teams that have the 2 best records from the 2 conference champions. The 2 conference champions that have the best records that finish the season with the best records. 2 conference champions that finish the season with the best records. So then, like in this case, I'm pretty sure that would be Georgia and Oregon. Or is it Boise and Oregon? One of the 2. But it'd be 2, right? If it was Georgia and Oregon, that sounds legit. They should receive the first round buys. Now, you move the other 2 teams out of there. And potentially right? So what I'm saying is that there should only be 2 automatic bids. 2. And then you should reshape the at-large bids. Now, this brings into question, could Alabama possibly make it now? Yes. Now Alabama's in the mix. Now the Miamis are in the mix. Now the Ole Misses are still in the mix, right? Now it can be first 4 out instead of first 2 out, right? I don't know. I think the automatic bids need to be cut down because it really should. The 2 best teams should have the bye week, similar to what the NFL playoffs do, right? I think the conference winners should still have a bid, but not automatic bid. Maybe an at-large bid, right? It still gives, it still gives the underdog teams a chance, like the Boise States and the Arizona States, right? They're underdog teams. Let's be real. Let's be absolutely real. They're underdog teams. Because Texas is a better team than Arizona State. Not Ohio State, excuse me. Boise State is not a better team than Penn State. Excuse me. So, it still gives the underdogs a chance, but the fans will get to see more meaningful games, man. These games, and it sucks to say, they were supposed to be meaningful, right? You had Notre Dame versus Indiana. This is the battle of Indiana. The Indianimals. The battle of the Indianimals, right? Then you got Ohio State versus Tennessee. You got heavyweight Big Ten, heavyweight SEC. Should have been a good matchup. But the cold got the Nico, unfortunately. The SMU game, obviously, that's weird. So, and it's hard to say this too because everyone knew Penn State was going to beat SMU. And that obviously brings up the question to Alabama fans who say, then why didn't Alabama make it? That would have been a better game. Now, that's where I say you take out those 2 automatic bids and let other teams fight for those 2 spots. All right? Alabama could possibly still get in. Because I think if Alabama played against Penn State, that would have been a lot more interesting game than what the hell we saw against SMU. Man, that was bad, right? And then another pro, right? The more teams involved, right? More teams, overall, just more teams involved, right? Like the Alabama and Miami and Ole Miss fans can also have a bid into the college playoffs. They could have an argument to really get in over, a Clemson, right? Who was had 4 losses, but still won their conference championship, right? That holds weight. That gives, a team an at-large bid, not an automatic one though, right? And then you start to look at the strength of schedule. Right, I feel like conference positioning and then strength of schedule should be in the play. I think that's how it should really go. Conference positioning, right? Did you win your conference? Did you place 1 or 2 in your conference, right? And who the hell did you win against? And then who would you lose against, right? Alabama had meaningful losses at 3 meaningful points in the season, the beginning, the middle, and the end. It's unfortunate for them. Very unfortunate for him, right? Now, the 12-team playoff has its challenges, right? There will be a logistical challenges to changing the format again, but I feel like it's still early on enough to where they can still get some things changed and take out the 2 teams, right? If they were to do something along the lines of what I was just breaking down, where they take out the 2 automatic bids, like, for example, the ASU and the BS in the Boise State, take them out, not take them out the picture, but just take off the automatic bid for those 2 and really give the automatic bid to the 2 teams that really earned it. They were, the best in their conference. They won their conference, right? And then their record gets played into play. And that would be Georgia and Oregon right now. That would be Georgia and Oregon. It could have been Texas if they beat Georgia twice, or if they beat them in the SEC championship. That would have gave them that extra seed, the seed to be over Georgia, right? But the regular season, unfortunately, might lose some significance after this last weekend, y'all, because it's like, as if you're Alabama, it's like, do you even play out of conference games anymore? Do you just schedule all SEC games to get yourself in the conference and in the playoff picture, right? Like, you don't even want to waste games against out of conference teams anymore, and then that takes away from the meaningful games, the exciting games for the fans. That's where the problem is coming in, because now in the future, Alabama's going to be like, yeah, screw these fucking out of conference games. They don't mean shit to us unless it's a top 10 team, right? In the beginning of the season, it really doesn't mean shit to us then either, because that's what the committee's basically saying. In the beginning of the season, if you play a top team, what the hell does it really matter if they're not top in the end, right? And I kind of feel bad for Alabama, but I don't. I kind of feel bad for Miami, but I don't. They lost crucial games at the end of the season, man. Right? And this is going to affect, powerhouse programs like the Ole Misses, the Alabamas, the Miamis, still looking for a shot at glory. And my take really is the 12-team format really good for college football? And I think so. And I think so because a lot more teams get a chance, dog. And it's more football. Plain and simple. It's more football. We get to watch more football, y'all. If we keep this, but they just need to revisit some things in the formatting of it for next year. It's early on. We can still try shit out, committee. You don't have to put your feet in mud and cement. You don't have to put your feet in cement and then just stay stuck. You can make changes. It's okay to make changes. That's what we want to see as fans. We want to see you adjust things. We want to see what you've come up with to either potentially make this better and hopefully not make the shit worse. Because I love the 12-team format, right? I like seeing all these, I love seeing the first round, at a specific team's college, seeing the home field advantage in the playoff setting. That's entertaining. And NCAA, if y'all want views, we need to just continue to tweak it, right? Continue to tweak it. This new format is going to shake things up. And really, I can't wait to see how things play out. And college football, after this season shit, the controversial Heisman Trophy winner and, this first round of the college football playoffs. Shoot, college football is on the hot seat. Not on the hot seat, but the seat getting warm. The seat is getting warm, y'all, because the fans are upset with a lot of the decisions that NCAA has been making. Kind of want to touch on the Diego Pavia situation. It's given a lot of, but now that situation there, right? This is giving a lot of JUCO kids a lot of chances, a chance to actually play a full 4 years at a 4-year university instead of, having to stop their eligibility, right? But I will say this, college football is not college football anymore. Student athletes aren't fucking thing anymore, right? It's all money. This is all a money scheme, right? Who can really milk these universities for the most money in the end, right? The NIL has become insane. The NIL has become insane. And shoot, yo. And then this right here, these JUCO dudes, everyone's going to start going JUCO now. And it's not a bad thing for JUCO football because I think JUCO football needs to be brought back to life. JUCO football has been kind of taken away because everybody's trying to get to a big university now and, get as much money as they can now, right, without burning as much eligibility as possible, taking the JUCO route. But now taking the JUCO route really ain't that big of a, it ain't that bad of an idea. It doesn't really sound that bad of an idea now because you basically get to reset. You get to reset your whole eligibility run, right? And you get to go to Duke or whatever, Georgia or whatever, at 20 years old, and you still get to finish at 22. You make it to the league by 22 years old still. That doesn't sound like a bad idea, right? I think it's still good. I think it's a good thing for the kids, giving kids a longer chance to play college football. But at the same time, shit, man, some of these kids would be 25, 26 by the time they, graduate college, and they're out there still playing with eligibility because they're going to have all these red shirts still. They're going to have so many red shirts. And, oh, man, actually, it's a weird thing for college football. But I think it's still a good thing for the kids. Also, there's just it's going to make for a larger pool of talent, too. Larger pool of talent, a very large pool of talent. And, as an NAIA football coach, that is tremendous for teams like us that, need talent. And, it's going to make some guys also want to take the NAIA route. If, the portal is too loaded, JUCO is too loaded, D1 teams are too loaded, because they're cutting down on that roster limit too. So NAIA might be up too. They might be taking a big step in the right direction as well. We're going to start talking about the NAIA level of football here soon. But back to, the main topic, I think it's going to be good for football and the kids. It's going to be good for the kids. Allow them to play as much football as they possibly can, because some of these kids, this will be the last time they play football ever in their lives. Also, these kids will also be getting multiple degrees from multiple schools. So from that standpoint of student athlete, that's a good thing. But at the same time, these kids ain't really looking to get their degree no more, man. They're just trying to milk the NILs, as they should. But at the end of the day, what we're really going to college for is to play football and get a college degree, because your college degree lasts longer than football. That degree is forever. Football is temporary. And that's real stuff right there. That's real stuff. So with that being said, that's it for today's episode of the 410 Pod, man. And we've covered the Steelers versus the Chiefs battle, the Ravens Christmas Day win, Oklahoma's upcoming game versus Navy, and Teddy Bridgewater's return, and the future of college football with the 12-team format, right? Thank you for spending part of your post-holiday week with me. And don't forget to subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and like the video. And let me know your predictions for Oklahoma's game tomorrow, or let me know your thoughts on the 12-team playoff format. And that's it from me. It's been a good one. It's your boy K Love, and I'll see you next time.
Big beats.